everybody, and welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So today for you, I have my beginning of May wrap up. I don't know what happened, but I apparently abandoned my entire TBR this month. Not entirely. There's 2 books that I finished that were on my TBR, but the rest of them, I don't know where they came from. But we're just going to dive in. We're going to get started. The first book that I finished in May was Black Candle Woman by Diane Marie Brown. This is a book that I was really excited for because I kind of compared it in my own head to Practical Magic. We're following this family of women. We've got like the great grandma and the grandma and the aunt and the mom and the daughter, and so like it's a big group of women, family of women, and they have this curse in their family where the people that they love die, like the men in their lives that they love die. And they haven't told the youngest yet, and she brings a boy home, and they immediately are like, oh no. And the mom is like, I have to do everything in my power to make sure this relationship doesn't continue because she can't deal with the pain that I've dealt with in my life. And it kind of unravels family secrets, family stories. And there's a lot of like voodoo and New Orleans in here and things. And I went into it kind of hesitant because after I bought it, I had actually seen very just like blah reviews for it. So I went into it being like, I'm going to kind of go into it with no expectations. I'm going to go into it just like not expecting a ton. And so I decided to listen to it on audio because Hoopla had it. And I was like, I feel like if I don't, it's going to take me a long time to get to it. And unfortunately, I agree with kind of everybody. I gave it 3 stars. I think it's a very solid read. It is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just didn't hate it, and there was nothing really that I liked about it either. There was nothing really engaging. There was nothing really keeping me like wanting to read. So like I couldn't give it anything more than a 3. Throughout the book, I felt often very conflicted about, like, I feel bad giving it a 3 when it's really not doing anything wrong. Like, there's no reason why it can't be a 4. But it also just, like, didn't do anything extra for me to really push it up that star. So it was just a fine book. If you are somebody who is interested in it and it sounded good to you and you wanted to pick it up, I wouldn't hesitate to pick it up. I would try it because you never know. There are definitely takeaways that people can take from this. I just wanted a little more something from it. Then, weirdly, one morning, I don't even know why I decided I wanted to read this. So I read a love letter from the girls who feel everything and Behind Closed Doors. And this is by Candy Steiner and Brittany C. Cherry. These 2 books are poetry collections. And it's very strange because I don't read poetry. I don't understand poetry. It's not normally my thing. But for some reason, something was telling me that day that I needed to download these through Kindle Unlimited and I needed to give them a shot. And I kind of want to own them physically because I highlighted so many poems that just, I was sobbing reading them. They were so good. I gave them 5 stars apiece. I definitely liked A Love Letter from Girls Who Feel Everything more than Behind Closed Doors. I just felt like it just spoke to so much. Like, it's definitely a focus on the heartbreak and things that you go through with a loved one, but it can also like cross to like any type of relationship that you've experienced, not just a romantic one. You just felt like their souls like out on that paper, and I actually really enjoyed both of them, and I gave, like I said, both of them 5 stars, and it now has me kind of intrigued that like maybe there is some poetry out there for me that I might enjoy. But yeah, so 5 stars for both of those. And then I read How I'll Kill You by Ren DeStefano. I gave this one 4 stars. Now, this 4 star, though, is it's closer to a 3 than a 5. I went into this thinking it was going to be like an unputdownable thriller, and it just wasn't necessarily that. Like, it's definitely like there's some suspense in there, but it definitely isn't. It felt very like in between genres instead of one genre or the other. So in this book, we are following this girl. She is one of triplets, essentially. And when they were children, they were abandoned by their mother. And so they kind of became these like famous triplets. And so they're kind of set for life. Like they have a trust fund, like they're good. So when they're not cashing in their like fund, like once a year, they decide to travel the world, and they decide that love will never get them again. So they basically target men and come through a town, kill somebody, and then move on. And this one girl, she has not had her turn yet, so they're in this town, and she sets eyes on a guy, and so it's finally her turn. And unfortunately for her, in this situation, she starts to grow feelings for him, like true, genuine feelings for him, and she doesn't know if she can do it. But her sisters are going to do anything in their power to make sure she goes through with it and kills him. So there's a conflict between her because she's like, I want to do what's right for my sisters, and obviously, like, I want to do what's right for me, and I also don't know anything different. So there's a lot of inner conflict, and like I said, it felt very romancy, but there was also this element of thrillerness, but there was also this like family dynamic, which made it feel kind of literary fiction-y, which, so it was just very like, I wanted it to pick a genre, pick a lane. Where are we? Is this a romance novel? Are we a suspense thriller novel? Are we a literary fiction look at life? Like I wanted it to pick a lane. So it was still 4 stars. I still enjoyed it. It was weird being in her head for sure. But I think there's definitely an audience, because I've seen a lot of people give this one 5 stars. My only conflict with it was like, pick a genre. Pick a genre. Then this book felt like it took me 20 years to read. This is called The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. And my lovely husband bought me this for Christmas, and I love him to pieces. He saw my buzzwords on the back. He saw a wedding, and he was like, this is a book for you. And it should have been. Like, it really should have been. And it wasn't. So this girl leaves Spain. Her family lives in Spain. She leaves Spain because something happens there, and now she's living in America, and she has to go back to Spain because her sister is getting married, and they kind of want like love for her, so she decides that she needs to bring a date. And so she kind of ends up in this fake dating relationship-ish with a coworker. And guys, this was just, I gave it 2.5 stars because there were like moments where I liked it, but for the most part, this was just a giant book that just continued to talk in circles. And this was, I read it as an ebook, but it's 437 pages. A romance novel does not need to be 437 pages. We didn't even get to Spain, which again, this is why my husband wanted to buy this for me, because this wedding in Spain. We didn't even get to Spain until like page 200. Like we were in the 200 range when we finally got to Spain. That is too much build up. Like, and it wasn't even like this like slow burny thing. Like they just like felt like they talked in circles. Like the guy kept being like, I'm gonna come with you to Spain and be your date. And she was like, huh? And he would like, she was like actively ignoring him, and he'd be like, no, I'll come. And she's like, yeah, right, no, you're not. And he's like, no, like I am gonna come with you. And she's like, no, you're not coming with me. And then they would have like these fight. They were supposed to be like enemies to fake dating lover type of thing, and they would be like having a decent time, and all of a sudden he'd be like, what, you don't want to be my friend? And she's like, no, I don't want to be your friend. It was just like, why are we like, it just, I don't know. This made me mad. So unfortunately, I didn't love this one. I gave it 2.5 stars. I'm shocked that it was nominated as a Goodreads choice for romance, because it just, the romance was not, no. Then I listened to The Sweet Spot by Trish Dollar. If you watched my last wrap up, I read Off the Map, which is funny because apparently that is book 3 and I skipped book 2. Again, you can read them out of any order because of the fact that they are kind of more like companion series. The first book being The Float Plan, and then the last book being Off the Map. So I had to go back and read book 2. This one is one that I constantly would check Hoopla because I listened to The Float Plan. So I was very much wanting to like listen to this, and I kept checking Hoopla and checking Hoopla and checking Hoopla and checking Hoopla, and it just never appeared. And finally it was there, and it's so funny because the third one is also there now. I'm like, how come it took so long to get The Sweet Spot on there, but you put The Sweet Spot and Off the Map on at the same time? I don't know. But this one is following the sister from the first book. She has a child and she's kind of dealing with the dad, but he's like kind of in and out of the child's life, not really consistently. She's living with her mom, and she was working at a hotel when a like somebody who's friends with like the board is staying at this hotel, and he makes a pass at her, which she of course turns down. And unfortunately, who are they going to believe, the guy with the money or the girl with that gets paid minimum wage? That was one of the things that she said. And of course they believe the man with the money, and she gets fired. And she just doesn't know what to do with her life. She's at a loss. So she ends up taking this job in Lake Erie. I'm trying to think where. It's like off an island, off of Lake Erie. And this guy kind of lures her into working at his hotel, only to find out that the hotel is not open. And he saw her resume and essentially was like, maybe she will help me to like make my hotel start running properly. So he takes her in. She decides to stay in and help him get this like hotel brewery type of experience running. Like I said, she's got a little girl, so like there's that whole sweet element. I just love it because she writes such good, simple, short romances that have a true romance story, but also deal with so much more. That we are dealing with like the custody issues, and then our love main interest, he is recently divorced because him and his wife had a child who ended up dying, and like they just could not like make it work anymore once the daughter was gone. So he's really dealing with a lot of grief, and the fact that she brings her daughter, he's like, I see my child in her, and just like she creates such a like in-depth world in such a short amount of time, but helps you to connect to everybody to the point where you are just sobbing. So I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars. Float Plan still remains my favorite. Then I read, apparently I was in a very romancy kick, which is funny because right now I'm like running for the hills. I don't want to read anything romancy right now after how much romance I just read. I ended up going with Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez because it was everywhere, and I kept being like, not that you could get spoiled for romance, but I felt like I was the only person not reading it, so I needed to pick it up immediately. This is the sequel in Part of Your World. We are now following the best friend of the character in the first book, and she is a doctor. She is working in the ER, and she is up for like this next job once this man retires, and this other man starts working there, and now it might be between the two of them. And she originally, when they meet, kind of are not getting along, but then they end up in a situation where like he decides to like donate his kidney to her brother who is in renal, I think what it's called. It's basically he is going to die if that doesn't like if he doesn't find a kidney, but he needs like the perfect kidney, and of course this guy is the perfect kidney. So he is going to donate his kidney, and she also decides to help him like fake date because his brother is about to get married to his ex-girlfriend. So like everybody is kind of waiting on pins and needles because they like are mad at the brother for dating his girlfriend. And so like he's like, I need people to think I'm happy. Will you date me and like attend this wedding so this wedding can go on without a hitch? So there's obviously a lot of in-depth. This book is another really long romance where it's almost 400 pages. I have to say I liked Part of Your World more, But this definitely had its moments. I love this dog. Lieutenant Dan is adorable. Like, there was definitely such great moments in here. The look at social anxiety and what that can look like and how it's not always understood was really like a nice conversation to have within the book. And there's also a lot of conflict with our main character, the female, because when we meet her in book 2, we find out that her ex has been cheating on her, and they end up getting divorced, and like the divorce gets finalized in this book, so she's coming to terms with a lot of things going on in her life. So it was good. I still gave it 4 stars. Definitely has some waterworks in here as well, but Part of Your World, there was just something about that one that I liked that one much more than I liked this one. I am currently reading The Dream Builders by, Wandrilla. I'm not going to say this. I'm going to butcher it. I'm listening to this one through Libro FM. I'm at like 65% in, and I have a feeling this is going to be a 2 or 3 star read. I haven't fully decided. We are following a woman who goes back to India to kind of spend the summer with her dad. Her mom recently has passed away, and it's kind of like in India, like she doesn't remember. But we're also following a bunch of different perspectives in India, just kind of getting the lay of the land. Trump Towers is building an apartment complex, so there's all look at that. And this is all very character driven with very little plot, which makes it very not engaging. So I wish it narrowed down to just like 2 or 3 characters and had a little bit more of a plot going on, because when I'm in certain characters, I'm really enjoying where their story is going. But then like other characters, like it started off strong and then it has kind of just petered a bit. So I'm hoping by the end it'll turn around. So right now it's lying at a 2. If it can get me re-engaged, it'll go up to a 3. So we'll see what happens there. And then this one I'm not very far in at all. This is The Eden Test by Adam Sternberg. I'm about 60 pages in. I started this last night and then I started falling asleep. But we are following a couple. They've been married for 3 years. They've been together 2 years before that, I think. It's coming up on their 3rd anniversary and they are not doing so well. And the wife kind of concocts an anniversary trip to this like foundation where it's like called the Eden Test, and it's like 7 days, 7 questions, and she's trying to get him to kind of re-fall in love with her. Little does she know that he had planned for their anniversary to break up with her and go to Cabo with this other woman. So it's been very interesting. The prologue was intense. We find out that there is 2 dead bodies. We don't know who they belong to or anything, but that says it's on day 6. I'm still currently in day 2, so I'm intrigued to see where this goes. So yeah, that's what I've read so far in the beginning of May. Let me know if you've read any of these books down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, everybody.